Okay. This exercise deals with the logical functions. We need to open the laboratory Excel file, and we need to go to the sheet whose name is first. And then here you are going to see a table, and we need to produce using the if function this result. So for German students, we need to return the mark of the IIS exam. Otherwise, we need to return the minus sign in column I. We need to use the if function, and here it is described how to use the function. So name of the function is if, and then between brackets we have three arguments. The first argument is the condition. The second argument is the what you have to do if the condition is true. And the third argument is what you have to do, what you want to do if the condition is false. Second point of the exercise: for each non-German student, you have to determine the highest mark, otherwise return the sign minus in column J. You have to use the not function, and then here there is this question: do you really need it? So it is possible to solve the exercise without using the not function, and so you can think about another possible solution to produce the same result without using the not function. Okay, let's try to solve this exercise by yourself, and then we're going to see the solution together. So now pause this video, please. Please pause this video. Now let's see the solution together. So let's open the laboratory file. And then let's select the sheet first. Okay, here we have the table. We have one, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8 columns. Oh, sorry, 7 columns. The column we are interested in, the language column, to solve the first point, and also to this column where we have the mark for the IIS exam. Let's solve the first point of the exercise, and it is requested to return the mark IIS of the IIX exam, so this one, when the student is German. So now here I'm going to produce this function. The name of the function is if. Okay, let me enlarge a little bit here the screen first. So the if function, open bracket, the first argument is the condition. In our case, the condition is that the student must be German. So I produce the formula for the first row of the table, and then I'm going to drag it down to apply it to the whole table. So I select cell C3 where there is the language of the student, and this has to be equal to German. German is double quoted as it is text, semicolon, and then we need to insert the condition. We need to insert what we have to do if the condition is true. In this case, we have to return this cell. So I insert a reference to this cell. Then again, semicolon. The third argument of the function is what we have to do if the condition is false. So for all the other students, so for all the students that are not German, what we have to do? We have to return the minus sign. It is double quoted, also the minus sign, as it is text, pure text. So let's close the bracket, and that's all. Then we can drag down the formula to apply it for all the cases. And we can see, for example, the student is German, and we see the IIS mark. Also, the student is German, and we see his IIS mark. In this case, the student is Italian, and we see the minus sign. Now let's solve the second point of the exercise. We need to return to show for each non-German student the highest mark among these 3 marks, and for all the other cases we have to return the sign minus. So let's start inserting the function in column J for the first case. So we use again the function if. I'm going to use the function not as it is suggested, and then I'm going to propose another solution without using the function not. Okay, first argument is the logical test. So I use the function not to negate the condition that the student is German. So with this condition, we select all the students that are not German. Semicolon and second argument. So in this case, if the student is not German, we need to insert the highest mark. And to do this, we use the function max applied to this cell range. Then we close the bracket for the max. Semicolon, third argument. So what we want to do, we want to show if the student is German. In this case, we need to show the sign minus. Okay, let's close the bracket for the if, and that's all. I drag down the formula. Okay, let's see the result. For example, this student is German, and we see the minus sign. This student is Italian, so it's not German, and we see the highest mark, which is this one. Now I propose you another solution without using the function not. So it's possible to rewrite the condition of the if, considering that we show the sign minus if the student is German, and then for all the other cases we show the highest mark. So again I start with the if function. So now I change the condition. I select if what the condition is the German is the student German. So I enter C3 equals to German. The second argument is what we need to show if this condition is true, in this case minus. The third argument is the highest mark, the maximum mark among these three marks. So I say choose the function max applied to this cell range. Then I close the brackets. So this is the final result. So if the student is German, show minus. Otherwise, compute the maximum, return the highest mark. I drag down to apply the formula to the bool table. As you can see, I produce the same result. Okay, that's all for this exercise. Let's go back to the presentation. Let's switch to the next slide. This is the second part of the exercise dealing with the logical functions. Let's read the first point of the second part. In column L, we need to compute the average marks of each ENG and AGR student, while for Polito students don't display anything. The second point of this exercise is the following. We need to insert an if function so that for Italian students of first year the output is x. For German students of a year larger or equal than 2, the output is double x. For all the other cases, we need to leave the cell empty. So now try to solve this exercise by yourself. So pause this video. Please pause this video. Now let's see the solution together. The first point, we need to insert an if function so that for students of ENG AGR course we show the average marks, and for the students of the Polito course we don't display anything. So I write the if. So we start with the if, then we have to insert the condition. So in this case as we have that the student can be of AGR or ENG course, we can use the OR function, and as arguments for the OR function we insert the condition that cell E3 is equal to ENG. The second argument is of the OR function is E3 equal to AGR. The second argument of the if function is what we have to show if the condition is true. In this case, we have to show the average mark, and so we use the function average applied to the marks of this student. Last argument of the if function is what we want to show if the student is Polito. As there is only one case missing Polito, so here we can simply enter something double quoted. An empty space is represented with this symbol, and that's all. So this is a possible solution using the OR function. I drag down the formula. Now let's see another possible solution without using the OR function. I write the other possible solution here in column M. For example, we can use the not function, and we can insert as logical test as condition if the student is not Pulito, if not of the course Pulito. In this case, we don't show anything, so nothing double quoted. Third argument of the if function. So what we want to show if this condition is false. In this case, is the average of the marks here. So this is another possible solution for this point of the exercise. Now let's solve the second point of the exercise. Again, we use the if function. We have that two conditions at the same time have to be satisfied. The student has to be Italian and of the first year, so we use the AND logical function. The two arguments of the AND function are student, so C3 is Italian, The second condition for the AND function is that the student has to be of the first year, so D3 equal to 1. So in this case we need to show X. So the what is, if these conditions are true at the same time, we show X. Then we need to insert a nested if to go on, and the logical test for the nested if is again something between two conditions that have to be satisfied at the same time, and so we use the AND function again. The first condition is the student has to be German. Then the student has to be of a year larger or equal than 2. So D3 greater than 1. If these two conditions are true at the same time, we show double X. Otherwise, we don't show anything. Let's close the bracket for the nested if and the bracket for the main if. And that's all. Now I drag down the formula. This is the final result. So we can check, for example, here we have a double X. The student is German and of the second year. In this case, we have one single X. The student is Italian and of the first year. And here, for example, we don't have anything. The student is German and the first year. The first year. Now let's go on with the presentation. This exercise deals with the sum if, count if, average if functions. We need to use the table that you find in the sheet first of the laboratory Excel file. We have 5 points that we have to solve. In B20, you need to compute the sum of the IDs. In F20, have to compute the sum of the IIS marks larger than 25. In G20, have to compute the sum of the state A marks of Polito students. In C20, have to report the number of the Italian students. And last point of the exercise, the average of the IIS marks of German students in F21. So now try to solve all these 5 points by yourself. Pause this video and then we are going to see the solution together. So please pause this video. Let's see the solution together. First point of the exercise, we need to compute in B20 the sum of these values. So I use the function sum. Applied to this range of cells. Second point, in F20, we need to compute the sum of the IIS marks larger than 25. In this case, we use the sum if function. We have two arguments that are mandatory, and the last one is optional. As a first argument, you have to specify the range to which you want to apply the criteria. So in this case, we have that the range to which we want to apply the criteria is this one, the column of the IIS marks. The criteria is larger than 25. The criteria is double quoted, and as the sum range is is equivalent to the criteria range, we don't need to specify the third argument. So we can close the brackets. Now let's solve the third point. In G20, we need to compute the sum of these marks only for students of Polito course. So again, we use the sum if function. The criteria to which we want to apply, the range to which we want to apply the criteria is this one. The criteria is Polito. And now in this case, we need to specify also something for the third argument of the function, as the sum range is different from the criteria range. And the sum range is this one. This is the final result. Now in C20, we need to report the number of Italian students. And in this case, we need to use the count-if function. The cell range is the one for the language. The criteria is Italian. That's all. So in this case, we have only 7 Italian students. Last point of this exercise, we need to compute the average of the IIS marks for German students. And we need to put the result in F21. So here we need to use the average if function. The range, the criteria range is this one, the one containing the language. Criteria is German. And The average range is this one. And this is the result. Let's go back to the presentation.